Just one word will rule all, baby. Now that you told me straight from your heart, I'll be there forever and ever. And it's my time now to show you what I'm made of and give you what you need. I am the man you can be sure of whenever you're in need, baby.
Oh, you were in a party. You gotta know.
Whenever.
Oh, I don't know what's happening.
The party doesn't want to stop. That's what
I know. I'm frozen.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for our book launch. You see the energy's up, and we're going to keep it all the way up all night. For the next hour, prepare to have your dancing shoes on, because we are celebrating none other than the book launch of Leading. Moment, the music may just keep coming in and out. Because that's what happens at parties, right? Good food, good music, most of all, good people. And that's what we have here tonight gathered. I am your host tonight, Vivette Dukes. I am so honored to be here with the authors of Leading Impact Teams 2.0. I'd like to start with some brief introductions. I'm going to start off with none other than Dr. Paul Bloomberg. Dr. Paul Bloomberg is one of the nation's most sought after school improvement coaches. He is a best-selling author. He's a coach, an organizer, a public educator, a cheerleader, a CEO, a publisher, a husband, parent, and friend. I'd like to—
And a harmonica player.
Yes. I'd like to acknowledge a humanitarian. Paul has led multiple successful school turnaround efforts. He partners with schools and districts globally with a focus on, catch this, advancing learner agency through collaborative inquiry. Welcome, Paul. Thank you for joining us tonight. Yes.
Thank you. That deserves a little harmonica solo.
It does. We're not hearing the harmonica.
Oh.
Throw some emojis up. Let's get that. I'd like to continue our introductions tonight. We're just having fun here, y'all, tonight. I hope you are that we are in a celebratory mode. We have much to be grateful for, and we invite you into this space of gratitude, of joy, of exuberance, because a book has been birthed. This is
Ain't that the truth?
There were labor pains involved.
Barb knows about those labor pains, because Barb Pitchford, with nearly 50 years in education, I don't know how, because
I started when I was 12. Yeah.
okay, so how could you have 50 years in education? Go figure. Barb's passion and expertise, y'all, is strengthening and building leadership around high impact collaborative practices that focus on developing student and teacher efficacy and agency. With a deep background in the visible learning research, Barb partners with schools to operationalize the research around collaborative teacher efficacy. All my teachers out there, you better be giving Barb a hand, because she is go. She is for us, and this book was written for us, by us. And I just love that I'm here with all of my friends. Hey, welcome everyone. I'm going to be calling on each of the authors during our time here tonight. We're going to be answering questions and just sharing more about this book with you. And you're probably like, Vivette, what book are you talking about? Well, I just got my copy. I just got my copy. If you just got your copy, take it out. We're going to open this puppy up right now.
Wait. Oh my gosh.
Woo. Do you have? Are you ready? Oh my goodness.
All I got was this. Just kidding.
Oh, isn't she lovely? Beautiful.
I got
Gorgeous.
pens.
Pence.
I know you.
Wow.
You know what I'm super proud of is, look at this, all of our contributing authors.
You're not focused on, you're focused on the blank page.
Oh, sorry.
Very
There we go.
That's better.
Phantom authors, it's phantom authors.
my goodness. Thank you to all our friends who are live. Oh, Maritza, we see you. Hey, hey, hello. Thank you for joining us. Jill Thompson says, congrats on the new book. Jennifer Teeter says, hey, everyone from Northeast Oregon and Intermountain Education.
Woo!
Yeah.
Oh, Ryan Sykes from Canada.
Rosen says, hi, Tony. Hi, Paul. Congrats on the book. We are getting a lot of love in the chat, y'all. Shout out. Oh, Tony says,
Thanks, everyone. Isaac, they're worried about your curls. They're still there.
It's very windy in Western North Carolina today, so I had to pull back the clown wig.
with Isaac last week, I was worried about the curls too. I was like, uh-oh, Isaac is going through something, but we assure you the curls are still there. Thank you, Orion. Thank you. Orion says, hi, everyone. Glad to be here to celebrate the new book. And Jill Thompson, Katie from Lyons Township.
Yay.
Katie, she's shouting you out, Katie.
Thanks, Jill.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for being here. Let's dig in. Oh, Judith. Oh, my homegirl Judith is here from Long Island. Hey.
Right on.
Oh, she's always here to support me. I appreciate you so much, sis. So let's get into this book. Are we ready to dig in? Authors, we ready?
We're ready.
Ready. All right. We're going to start off with a question for everyone. Paul, and I'll tell you the order. It'll be Paul, then Barb, then Sarah. Get ready. You're up third. Katie, Isaac, and then Michael will round it out with you. And the question I have for all of you, tonight we are discussing all things Impact Teams 2.0. So I want to know, and the people out there want to know, who has had the greatest impact in your life? Paul, start us off.
So I think like many of us, it's almost impossible to choose just one, but I was really thinking if I had to go back and think of someone, it would probably be my great grandma Dibert, who was a second generation immigrant, came from Russia because of famine and everything like that. And she was a public health nurse in South Dakota. And I remember early on, learning about the indigenous people of South Dakota and the honor and respect that she had for them, which was not common across the country, but specifically in that part of the country. And I think that influenced my mom and dad. And then that influenced who I chose to be, who we chose to be married to each other. And I think the other two humans that I think are really a part of everything that I do now are two sons that I never really thought I'd ever have, and being a gay guy and just not even thinking that a family was possible. And I think just being their parent, I've learned more about education and more about being a human than I possibly could ever imagine. And I'm learning every single day. Who's next?
Who's that?
Yeah, I just had some technical issues. Sorry about that. I'm going to have to.
Right.
Why don't you go to the next person, please?
Okay.
That would be you.
Well, it was also hard for me to choose, but when I think about education and kind of my career path, I really have to shout out two teachers that were really important to me. My first and fourth grade teachers, and they were the Tim sisters. They were sisters. And
Excellent.
they really provided me a safe place, a nurturing place, a place to help me understand my strengths as a learner. And they're really one of the main reasons I went into education. And I was able to come back and let them know that as a first, second year teacher and partner with them on a book project. And it was just really cool to be able to come back and say, you had this impact on me. So that would be who my two people are.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, I'm ready.
Jump in, Barb.
So, Vivette, I read this question yesterday morning and I thought about it all day yesterday, laid in bed thinking about it, woke up thinking about it, and I started feeling guilty because I couldn't think of any one person. I went through all my teachers, my counselors, my professors, my family, and then I started feeling bad. But as Paul, when I was talking to Paul and Vivette about it, I went, you know, what's given me, what has impact on me is children. They always have, even when I was a child. And I remember my energy comes from being around children. And as a principal for, you know, about 150 years, I would never miss 8 a.m. when the bell rang and the kids walked through the door, because they had to walk through one door. I needed to see each and every one of them. And there were hundreds of them, but that's what's given me the energy. That's the impact.
It's beautiful.
Very beautiful.
Katie.
Yeah, this is a tough question. There are so many people that have had a great impact in my life, but if I had to narrow it down to one, I would say my husband, Jim, as of 19 years right now, who, best friend as of 19 years, husband as of 16 years, and the father of my most amazing children, Maddie, Sammy, and Charlie. I feel like together we can accomplish anything and have a great time while doing it.
Aw.
Nice.
Isaac.
Katie went ahead of me, so it won't look like she copied me, but also Jim.
Also, Jim.
Also, Jim.
Oh, Jim's your person too.
Yeah.
I thought
Yeah. I thought this would be hard too, but it's been really easy this week. Tomorrow is my 15th anniversary with my wife, Dana, and she's a wonderful educator, wonderful person, made me a dad, some of you have shared. And we just spent a wonderful weekend together, celebrating a little bit, and then some time these last couple of days as a family. So shout out to Dana. She'll see this later.
Depeche Mode.
Yeah. We saw Depeche Mode, so it was a great weekend.
Yeah.
Michael.
Enjoyed the silence a bit.
Hey everyone, I'm excited. I actually had no problem. It was immediate response when you guys lobbied the question at me. It was my mom. My mom's like a really inspiring person. She's gone through a lot. She was born in a tiny little island in the middle Atlantic called San Miguel, and her father passed away when she was very young, when she was 13. So she was kind of caring for her brothers and sisters from a very young age, cooking from a very young age. And just like an example of just sacrifice and love and generosity. And she came to the States in 1958 into the sunset of San Francisco, and made a life for herself, and was working at an insurance place. But then she went back to marry my dad, and so she didn't get her insurance job back. So they became entrepreneurs, and they ran dry cleaners. That was very successful, very well loved in the town of Livermore, which is a suburb of San Francisco or Oakland. And then when she had me, I was blessed that my mom decided to stop working at the dry cleaners. And she spent like a week crocheting and doing like household wife things, like the traditional form of what that meant to be a mom at that time. And she was like, this is not for me. In Portuguese, we say she was inquieta. She couldn't stand still. So she started doing real estate development. And so she started buying property and building apartments, and she built her home, and without even hiring a general contractor, and with her third grade education, she just has achieved more than I could imagine anyone achieving. And she's done that all with just such an humble and amazing story. So yeah, she's an example to me of what it means to love, what it means to be giving, what it means to sacrifice. And obviously her love for our family transcends into my love for my own children, my wife and my brother and sister and all that. So Gisela D'Souza, pretty amazing woman. Yeah.
impact,
Awesome.
the power of impact, the power of impact and what that means. That leads us into our next question tonight. And Barb, I'd like you to answer this. And then Paul, if you wouldn't mind following up. In a snapshot, what is this book about?
That it's about a belief in the people that we work with. It's a belief in how to leverage the strengths and the resources in your school, and the greatest resources are the people, the teachers, the children, the parents. And Paul and I, this was very evolutionary. It's very organic. It's very authentic. We'd work together, and we were, as consultants, we were told to go in and fix a broken school. And this is where we came together very quickly, very intuitively. We didn't see it from the deficit model. We saw schools as potential, as having so much potential. So essentially, over the years, we developed a way, and with the visible learning research behind us in the early, like 2011, 12, 13, we saw a way to move to let schools see that under the roof of every single building is the potential for success, and for success for all, for teachers, for children, for parents. So it was about how to how to gather and collect that energy in a way that people can work together, learn together, and especially have a positive impact on themselves, but in service of children. And then we went into, and of course, then we get very pragmatic. That's the background of it. But the snapshot is, it's always about, okay, what are we talking about? Why are we talking about it? And how do we do it? And so it's what are we talking about? Formative assessment. What are we talking about? Leadership. What are we talking about is collective teams. All right. Why are we talking about it? And that's where the research comes in. This is not a shoot from the hip. We believe this because it works for us. This is very research-based, meta-analytic research. So why are we doing this? Why are we doing teams? And then how? Then what is a simple, efficient, powerful way to gather the knowledge and expertise of the building and learn from one another to ensure that all students are successful?
And then I think what I would add on to in just like a really practical sense, it's a book about collaborative inquiry and how to set a system up for solving puzzles of practice, but it's based on a bigger picture, right? And this bigger picture is anchored in the community's core beliefs and the agreements that they have towards one another. But at the end of the day, it started out as a PLC book, and I think it's slowly moved into a school transformation model. We have over 1,800 schools engaged in the work. And I think where it's going to in a place where we're really like looking at different research that we didn't really look at in the beginning. And so that would be all the research that would be under the umbrella of asset-based pedagogy. And I think that was the new learning for all of us, and over like since 2017, I think was the work that we were trying to figure out, because it was always a strengths-based model, but then that just made it a perfect fit. But that's, in a nutshell, that's what it's about.
Paul, that actually leads me right into the next question. So why did you want to write Impact Teams 2.0? How were you able to pull this diverse amount of examples and tools and school partners? Bring us into that world. Like, why did you want to even write this book? And Barb, I'm going to ask you to follow up on that as well.
Yeah, so for me, we wanted to write the second book after the first book came out, because I think we were reading it, we're like, this isn't right. Because, in the first edition, we wrote it with Corwin, and it was about a year after we wrote it, and we'd been piloting it in different parts of the country, because Barb and I had so many problems with other PLC frameworks that just quite literally wouldn't work. And so I think 2.0, we started writing it pretty much right after it became published. But I think this edition is even, there's more contributors in this edition. And I would hardly say the question belongs to Barb and I. It belongs to everyone that's been a part of this process, because the schools that have partnered with us, it was about trying to show what's possible in schools with kids. And I think like on our YouTube channel, there's hundreds of videos, and those are all driven by classroom teachers. So I think the book, this 2.0, was a way to honor the work that's been done and then set our sights on what could be done. And I think that the people on the screen right now and all the people that aren't represented, meaning our schools and our principals and our kids that you'll see in videos, it's also about what's possible when we all work together. So I think that was the motivation.
Paul and I would always say, I'd be in South Dakota and he'd be in Georgia, and we'd be, or, someplace. We'd get on the phone, we'd kind of debrief. And what we realize is we've learned so much from the people. We're supposed to be the experts. We're walking into schools. But what in fact was happening is we were learning so much from the people with whom we worked. And then as it grew, these other very important people that you see on the screen started adding. And so it really is about this collective learning model. And it's ever changing. And I'm sure that we're going to start making notes tomorrow about, oh yeah, you know what? This is another idea. This is something else we need to add. So it's truly a we think model. We learn.
Sarah, I'm going to lean on you because you have such an integral part in changing from the first edition to the second edition. What distinguishes Leading Impact Teams 2.0 from the first edition?
I think, as Paul and Barb noted, we've learned so much from our partners, our school partners, and I have the privilege of speaking to all of them the first time and asking, what is it that you have in place? What is it that you want? What are your goals? And so we were very intentional in our focus on collaborative inquiry. We were intentional on really putting in some tools and guides for collaborative leadership. And what that really meant to us is viewing the community as an asset, making sure that the parents and students were in on this work from the beginning, because we should be doing it with them, not to them, not for them, but we should be together. The other thing that we're really proud about, and I know Michael will get a chance to share, is our goal to advance equity with culturally responsive and sustaining assessment. And so we want to make sure that we have equitable practices and policies in place that honor the community that we're serving. And we cannot do it alone, as Barb said. And then we really took a deeper look at the data triangulation. We had a lot of data before, but then post-COVID, we have just an overabundance of data at our fingertips, and we're data rich, information poor. So what do all of those screeners, what does the formative assessments, the summative assessments, all those things that we have, how do we look at those and triangulate that to find out what our impact is and what kids know and are able to do? And then I would say, I guess the last one is, and I know we'll touch on it a little bit more, but our collaborative inquiry cycles, pulling from that design thinking, gaining empathy for our users, our students, our parents, our community, our teachers, figuring out what they can collectively do together and a puzzle of practice that they can solve to strengthen the formative assessment process.
I want to just jump on real quick, Sarah, because I don't think Sarah's role is the executive director of quality implementation. And so I think that because we were able to have that role, and it was Sarah's idea, by the way, during the pandemic when we almost lost the company, we reorganized a bunch of different times to kind of figure it out. So Sarah, I think just even if you could just speak briefly as your role as the director of quality implementation, like what are the things that we learned? Because you've been very integral in the revision of the book because of your role.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we noted is that we can't expect the principal or the leader of the school or the leader of the district to be able to manage it all on their own. They also need a team, a guiding coalition to help them. I think the other thing that we learned is that when we invite students to have a voice, when we invite parents to have a voice, and we build that intergenerational connection with each other, that we can actually get to the root cause of what is happening in a school and what we can do together, and the strengths that they already have. And I think that's probably the best part of my role, is being able to not even just be a cheerleader, but to say, like, are you aware that these are amazing things that are not happening across the nation and you have them in your school? And so I'm really blessed to be able to see from a balcony view how schools are operating, what they have in place, and what we can do to help support them. And then I get to build the fun plan with them.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And thank you for elevating the work that Sarah does and that Sarah did particularly for this book. You can't see it, but the chat is going wild on Facebook. So much support. People are saying, Sarah, you're a rock star.
I love it.
Yes, parents are not often included in the school conversation. So just so much learning and affirmation around this notion of collaboration, and seeing that it's not just a part of this company's name. It really is the foundation upon which the work that you do is built. So just love that that's translating to our guests and our party, y'all. I remember we're at a party, y'all. Let's not forget the party. We're celebrating. Woohoo! Love this so much. Thank you, Paul.
I learned that from you.
Michael, I'd love to bring you in right now. And no, I'm sorry, Isaac, because I was looking through this book, Isaac, and one of the things that immediately stood out to me, there are all these QR codes and online resources. I'm resisting the urge right now to like pick up my phone and go into the QR codes, because that's not something I'm used to seeing in a book. So could you talk to all of our viewers here about what kinds of things would a reader find in these extra resources? Why did you find it necessary to include them in the book?
Yeah, and a quick shout out to Donnie and Allison and our team, who've been a huge help with that. Michael's showing some examples there. So the book itself already is essentially a how-to. As Barb laid out, it tells us the what, the why, and the how of transforming schools into the visions that you've designed together. But we always need a little bit more of that how. So when you click on one of those, you'll be able to see some students engaged in peer assessments. You can see this is what this might look like with a 6-year-old. Here's what it might look like with a 16-year-old. You click on another one and you'll read a school success story from a leadership team or a principal or a superintendent. Click on another one and you'll see forms ready to go you can take and use with your teams, whether that's an instructional leadership team, a grade level team, a course team, whoever that might be, that can help you structure the conversations you're having as you drive that collaborative inquiry that Paul mentioned right at the start. So a short answer is a little bit of everything is there. And I would say to anybody other than Vivette for the next 30 minutes, don't resist that urge. Just go ahead, scan them, and you'll find some great things there. And those are resources created, everybody from Paul and Barb to teachers who've only been with us for a few months, and things that kids came up with on their own. So there's really a wealth of resources there, and things we'll continually be adding to.
And I want to give a shout out to Isaac, because just that part of the creation of the book is like writing another book.
Yes.
And wrangling schools, I think there's like 30 or 40, and principals, and getting all this stuff together in an organized way, and then the creative team working through it, making sure that it's readable. I mean, like Isaac, like the book wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Isaac. 2.0 would not be here. And I just want everybody to know that.
Thank you. I'm glad Dana heard.
And I love him.
Yeah, you too.
You know,
Just to add on about the resources, Carrie put this in the chat too, but a lot of times our teams that are interested in impact teams can start with that video or start with those resources. They can share it with stakeholders. And so those resources are more than just for the impact teams themselves, but to also share, this is, you know, a model of what this work can do for our system.
Thank
really
you, Sarah.
quickly,
Very true.
Just to bring Barb in, like Barb, when we started, we didn't have all those things. And now we have like an impact team website, and we have, so I think from like your perspective, it's like shifted completely, right?
Well, I was just sitting here appreciating and being grateful for Isaacs and the Sarahs and the Katies, and I mean, Michael's. It's extraordinary when I think of how, in all honesty, this book was given birth because we were struggling with data teams. We were struggling with PLCs. We were, Polly and I, because it seemed like it was doing to people rather than with people. And so I'm kind of almost in tears. So I just want to say in gratitude, my thanks for the richness of the work that you've helped build and create.
Thanks. Thank you.
what you've done here is really made it 2.0. When you've now included digital resources in a hard copy book, you've merged these two worlds in such a very nuanced way. Thank you. Michael, I don't know who you paid to be here, but we have people literally shouting out your name in the chat, like, we want Michael, we want Michael. We want to hear your voice.
We do too.
And I mean, you actually are up next anyway. You were on my list, but so you're going to have a two-part question. So the first part, Michael, is what can we expect from the equity connections in this book? And just to drill down on that a little bit more, what do you think about inclusion? Specifically, how do you reach those who need our support the most in these very politically challenging times? In these times we're in
Say that again.
it's a lot like so. And this question is like, the first part's coming from me, but the second half is coming straight from Facebook Live.
Yeah, straight from Lisa. I see. I'm following over here. You see me checking over there.
You see it, right?
Yeah. I see it. I appreciate you, Lisa. But I'll start with what we can expect from the equity questions or reflections in the book. I often think about like part of the challenge of working in schools and leading schools is what I call like looking at our work from a perpendicular. We're working so hard and we know where we're going and we know what's coming next. And we even can look behind us sometimes and think about what we just did, but like there's a need to kind of set yourself up and look at the work from a perpendicular that sees like, how's it all fitting, not in just that moment in that line, but in the context of the school, in the context of the community, in the context of history, in the context of the political and social, that because we're hustling so much and looking along the line of the work we're trying to do, it's helpful for us to have tools that allow us to see our work from what I often call the perpendicular. So that's one frame that I offer as why we have these equity reflections. And the second is, it's true, we need to give teachers and schools and folks who work in education easy to use tools. And there's also like a little bit of a trap in that like if we simplify it, if we create the 10-step plan and we have the bullet points, that we actually are oversimplifying the work, because there is nothing more complex than teaching and learning. There's nothing more complex than the social experiment of school. Like, so while we want to give things that are easy to use and easy to implement, I think equity reflections allow us to like, yes, okay, let's make it as easy as possible. Let's also understand that because we live in a society that has so many different layers of oppression, of white supremacy, patriarchy, like just a lot of oppressiveness in the water we breathe, in the air we breathe, in the water that we're swimming in is there. So unless we take moments to pause and recognize we can't just keep on doing and doing, we have to actually stop to notice, to observe, and to reflect, and to make sure that we're not doing things because that's how we were used to doing them, that we're actually taking moments to figure out how we can maybe be and do different. So that's what the equity reflections are intended to do for folks, is to create that moment of pause and reflection and noticing so that we can be and do different. So that's my first response to the question that we planned for. Yvette. And then the second question, and thank you, Lisa, for offering it in the chat and on Facebook Live around inclusion. And we could talk a long time about this, but I often think our challenge right now in our schools around inclusion is not just about how do we bring more people in, but how do we bring people into a system that's less harmful? How do we bring people into a system that's less racist, less harmful to people who have different identities, different abilities, different minds, different perspectives? That including someone in a burning building is not very helpful, right? We want to include people into a system that loves them and cares for them and sees them as whole. So that's the first thing. When I think of inclusion, it's really important that we don't just include people in things that are harmful. And that's what our schools have been, unfortunately, for generations and generations since their inception, that for too many schools have harmed kids. And we can predict who gets harmed more. So we want to disrupt those patterns. And the second thing around inclusion, and presuming that the second half of your question is like, where there's like states and school districts that are having books banned, right? And what I would say is that we found that 11 people are responsible for 60% of all book ban requests. I'm going to say that again. 11 people in the country are responsible for 60% of the requests for book bans. So what I want us to remind ourselves of is that the majority of people want to love, want to care, want to make kids feel like they have a sense of belonging, that ultimately love and inclusion and equity and justice will win. And I know that when I talk to families, they may not know how to speak about justice or equity, but at the end of the day, we all want our children to go to school and feel seen and heard as their whole selves. And so while there may be a group of people who are trying to silence voices and erase history, I know that the overwhelming majority of us, and especially if we show up in the best way that we can include people in buildings that are loving on people and not harming people. So that's my suggestion around inclusion.
Michael, you are speaking my language, talking my talk. We just need to pause and celebrate that response. Throw up some confetti. I don't know what you got to do, but
I got some paper.
Yeah, I do something here because that is it. That is
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to Michael as well, because I was on the board of the National Parent Union and I saw that Michael had gotten an award. And I DM'd you on Twitter and I'm like, can we hang out and talk on Zoom? And like, literally, like, I think that everyone can tell why I would want to talk to Michael on Zoom just by his response. But I'm also here to promote Michael and the book that he's writing as well. And I know that he's working on it. And, you know, whether we're a part of it or not, we're going to be 100% behind you and cheering you on. And I hope that we can use this as a vehicle to get more and more people to get to know you, Michael, because like you've already transformed my life in the short time that we've gotten to know each other.
Thank you, Paul. It's so kind. Yeah.
True. It's
all
true.
I want to do is do good work for families and kids. That's that. So whatever it takes, let's make it happen.
Yeah, us too.
right place for that. We're in such a celebratory mode here. I think it's the perfect time to bring our guests in. Those of you who joined us on this amazing virtual book launch party, wouldn't you agree? We have some winners here. It would not be a party without prizes. Hello.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Hello, Sarah. I heard you. Oh, yeah. It's a party, people. So we have some book giveaways. If I call your name, be prepared to receive a little private message from us because you have won your own copy of Leading Impact 2.0. Oh, the first winner, we're going to have 10. So this is 5 now, and then we'll have 5 at the end.
Holy
The
cow.
first winner, Jennifer Teeter.
Oh, Jennifer, shout out Oregon.
Yeah, MESD.
Next winner, Maritza Guridi. Woo!
Yeah.
Yay.
Next winner, Guillermo Ramos.
Oh, Guillermo, good friend, Gilroy.
Gilroy.
Yes. Then we have none other than Jill Thompson.
Chicago.
That's
Jill is
80.
actually Amy. Jill is Amy
Oh.
McNamara. So yeah,
Great. Jill Thompson, Amy McNamara, whomever you are, you're a winner. That's what we know. And then we have Ryan. I might butcher your last name. Blame it on my head, not my heart. Ryan Sikes. I think I'm saying it right. Sikkes. We
Yeah,
have
yeah,
Is it Ryan Sykes?
Sykes,
Ryan
yeah.
Canada.
all right, Canada. This is an international party. Love that. So you all are winners here. We thank you so much. Look out for a private message. You are going to get a free copy of the book. Thank you so much.
Can I ask Barb a quick question?
Sure, of course you can.
Hey, Barb, so you're sitting here, I don't know how many years later, and you're retired and riding horses and being with your grandkids. And like, what are you thinking?
I'm just ready to jump back in. I'm
I knew it.
excited. You knew that. You knew that, didn't you?
Yeah.
I did. I was like, there's no way.
Let me at it. I got it. I gotta pack my suitcase. I'm ready to go.
What I'm hearing is Barb is available. Let me know if you need to connect.
So I am so excited. I have chills all over my body. I'm just ready. It's just amazing, extraordinary work in service of all of our children and families.
That's cool.
That's it.
Get back on the vet. Sorry.
Wonderful. Give Barb her flowers. And I love in our party, we're giving everyone their flowers now while we can smell them, enjoy them, and hear them. What sense does it make to say wonderful things about the people you love when they can't even appreciate it any longer? So we just thank you for being in this space with us. And we truly appreciate all of you taking time here now to be with us, to share in what is truly a joyful experience. And I hope that you are receiving that joy and that love from us, because it certainly is here in the house.
No.
Yes. I would like us to talk with you a minute, Katie. You've been really quiet, but you have been such a powerful voice and a powerful presence in this new iteration of leading impact teams. And I want to hear now about the reader of this book. What are you most excited about readers learning as they delve into leading impact teams 2.0?
That's a great question. So I think one of the things I'm most excited about is one of the goals of impact teams has always been to create agency for students and for educators. And collaborative inquiry offers an opportunity for basically team empowerment in which they can ask a question, they can innovate, and they can build on their own capacity to improve student ownership of learning. And I think this book does a really nice job of explaining how that process can work and how that process can be rooted in empathetic data at the onset, which is something different from what we have really done and explored before. And empathetic data is when you're really looking at the students, parents, community members, and asking them to explain their position and their perspectives and how the system is currently affecting them. Because if we don't understand the challenges and obstacles, then our innovation, right, or inquiry won't necessarily improve them. And so that is the whole goal around collecting the empathetic data. And I have to say that's probably my favorite part of the new book, is that it really leans in and pushes in on that. And I do think there's a distinction between problems and puzzles, and this book frames everything in regards to a puzzle of practice and the fact that we have what it takes to put the puzzles together and to create more ownership for our kids.
And just like just a shout out to Katie. I met Katie, I don't know how many years we worked together in Lyons Township. Was it 4?
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot. But I have never met someone like Katie who thinks in outline form. I've never met someone that you can talk to and you'll receive a PowerPoint in 10 minutes with bulleted points and everything on it. So that is just exactly the kind of person that we need to be able to do this work. And the work that she's done with the secondary schools, which sometimes are the hardest schools to reach. And to be quite honest, it's because the PLC models that are out there don't really connect to what a high school teacher needs to do. And Katie has been that voice of reason and practicality, and being, you know, a leader of a large comprehensive high school outside of Chicago, like 3,500, 4,000 kids. She brings expertise to the book and to our company and to my life that I just want to make sure that everyone that has contributed knows how important you are to the big picture. And Katie is, and now we get to work together. And I told her when we met, there's going to be a day that we're going to make enough money that we can bring you in. And it was the best decision I think that we ever made.
I'm grateful for that decision. And I wouldn't be here if it weren't for your initial book and your initial work, because that's how I met you and I was inspired, and I'm really grateful to be able to have the opportunity to carry it on. So thank you.
Apparently, Katie in the chat, a little birdie said, Katie might be quiet, but she is a force to be reckoned with. Shout out to Katie, AKA the Silent Storm, is what I'm hearing.
Ruth is nodding yes to that.
I just want to take a moment to acknowledge Michael. He has to hop off for a minute, but Michael, sorry to see you leave the party early, but so glad you could join us, and we will be in touch. Thank you so much.
We love you, Michael. See you later.
Michael.
Hi, y'all.
Bye.
Feel free to reach out if you need anything. I'll put my
we will.
email in chat.
Okay.
Please
Take
do.
care.
Okay, we have about 12 minutes left in our party, so just want to be cognizant of the time and equity of voice. And what I'm hearing the people online on Facebook want to hear about, and on YouTube. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Paul. How can a system best employ this book as a resource? And then second part, if schools or teams are looking to take this work further, what steps can they take?
So Barb, do you want to take one part and me take the other?
Why don't you start in, because I'm going to do the leadership part a little bit later. So
Okay. So what was the first question? It was around
How
coaches.
can how can a system best employ this book as a resource? How do you recommend people use this book? Is it a study guide? Is it by
Yeah.
a chapter? Like, how do they
I think we wrote it with schools in mind. So the chapters are relatively short. It's what, why, how, but I think, like, I just was thinking this sitting here, and this is kind of weird, but I'm going to say it anyway, because I am weird. I think if you start with the last chapter, not the invitation chapter, but if you almost started, it's almost like backwards design. I don't know what chapter, someone's going to have to tell me.
8. Go back to 8. Yeah.
Yeah, like there's a guiding coalition chapter that really, in our first edition of the book, we wrote it, and there were some technical things with the book with Corona. There's a chapter that got duplicated or whatever. But we really worked hard on really rethinking implementation. And one thing that we recognized is that all people weren't at the table when we embarked on this work. And when I'm meaning all people, I'm talking about families and caregivers. And they're a vital source of knowledge that we can learn from if we value their lived experience as a source of knowledge. And I think that the reboot of this book dives deep into this idea of building a guiding coalition and thinking about our social networks. And that's also a part of the book, because if you like kind of imagine 3 circles, like an inner circle, a next circle, and an outer circle, and you start to think of your own network, and you start to like think of the truth. The only person that I can really control is me, but I already have some influence in any system that I'm in, and I might start to think about that next circle, and who are the folks in the system that I am friends with, that and that could be parents. It doesn't matter. It could be students. But who are those folks that I already have influence with? And then I look at that third circle, and they're still within my circle of influence. But what if I could just influence 1 or 2 more people in the system around implementing formative assessment in the way that it should be? Because it's a process, it's not a test, right? It's a process where kids get to know and learn about themselves through self-assessment, and they learn about each other through peer assessment. I feel like that last chapter around building a guiding coalition sometimes might be the best place to start. and then go back to the beginning. But I think the book is written somewhat in sequence. This is the next thing that you'd want to think about. And then you go back to I think the second or third chapter, where it all starts with the work that we've learned through Metasol. And Vivette, we're all really good friends with Metasol, and we know how important her work is, but it all starts with like co-constructing your agreements. How are we going to treat each other? How are we going to work with one another? How are we going to work with parents? Right? And we show the agreements from our company in there, and then we co-construct our core beliefs. I think you can't do this work without starting in that place. And so like that would be the big thing that I would say, like how you'd start. And then the second question, I can't remember.
I think you already started to lead into your
Good. I'm glad.
So that's great. And I want to bring in Barb, because Barb, you are going to talk to us now about this leadership piece.
Well, it's just it's a segue. I mean, Paul already touched on it, but I think it occurred to me. I always love listening to you, Paul. All of you I was listening to, and it occurred to me now more than ever that respect is so very critical and sometimes lacking in our schools. And so when we talk about a guiding coalition, honoring the lived experiences of the teachers, of the kids, of the community, that's what a guiding coalition is, and gathering together to create these commitments. You can call them goals. I think of them as commitment, but those commitments are based on these bone deep beliefs that we can share and that we have, because you can go do a framework, and we saw it in thousands of schools, a PLC, a data team, whatever. But they're shallow. They're going to fall apart, because that we need to gather around and say what is critically important to us in this school, in this network. And we learned so much from Alan Daly about social networks and the criticality of all of that and how we learn from each other. So in terms of what Paul and I were doing is, you have to, when you go into a school, you go in with great respect. What is happening in your school that's unique to you? What are your strengths? And beginning to create that guiding coalition. And a principal is the leader of the school, but it takes a whole lot more than a principal to lead a school. So working with the principal and getting them there, they are key in terms of getting them on this notion of what do you have that's really working, and listening to the people in the system about what they believe, where they want to go, and then creating that system that we're not doing things to people, including children, but we're doing them with people. That's the formative assessment system, basically, is partnering with students, with teachers to learn how to learn. So as a coach or a leader, what would I do? What we do is go in and talk with them about what works. The other thing I want to say before this, and chapter 8 is, I looked it up, is a critical chapter that I, as a leader, would probably read first and have that conversation, is this takes time. This is messy, hard work. And sometimes it's 2 steps forward and 1 step backward, because building relational trust, creating those commitments, it takes time. But it's really good work, it's deep work, and it's long-term work that builds on people's strengths, not their deficits.
I love your commitment idea. And I think that when we're revising one more time, like our blueprint, I think we really do need to exchange the word goal for commitments, because it is a commitment over time. Like when we look at the schools, a lot of the schools you'll see on the YouTube channel, they've been at this for 4 or 5 years. So when you look at what it takes to implement formative assessment well, it doesn't take a year. It doesn't take 2 years. It takes a long time, because it's personal in nature. So Barb, I really love your idea of commitments, and I think we need to make sure that we use it from here on out. So thank you.
And for those of you who are going to get the book and want to know Chapter 8 begins on page 209. So you can go ahead and just tab that right now. I did it. I went right to it as Barb was speaking so I can dig in. And of course, it starts with a quote from Margaret Mead, one of my favorite educational theorists, who reminds us never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. That's what I heard Barb say. Stay the long course. Don't give up. You're committed. You're invested. Do it. It can and it does work. I would be remiss, the teacher in me would be remiss if I didn't hear from Isaac and Katie. And we have like 2 minutes left. So please, if you could each take like 30 seconds, but how would a teacher best use this book, right? Because teachers are kind of like, they're leaders, but they're not. But I'm using, I'm a teacher, I picked up this book. Where do I go? What do I do?
I think to build right off of what Barb was just saying is it allows teachers to be the leaders that they're able to be and that they're meant to be. And it creates systems and structures and provides guidance. You know, here's ways that we're starting the year off and we're all besties. Like, hey, I know what coffee you love. I'm picking it up for you. I'm bringing it. Oh, I know you like chocolate, but you like plain donuts. But if you start the year knowing that teaming is difficult and it is complex, and you think, hey, what are some archetypes that might become challenges as we meet? Nobody's one of those things, but I might become the VIP. I've got too much important stuff to do. This book just offers a wealth of resources and so much guidance from so many schools and systems who've been successful, and it never tries to put anybody in their place. It always tries to open up more space for people to become everything they can be. 28 seconds.
That was great.
To build off that, I would reference certain chapters like we did for leadership for teachers. I really think that chapter 5 talks about strengthening student efficacy, and that gives teachers like practical strategies with even some sentence stems and some structures in the book to engage students in the formative assessment process. Additionally, there are some self-assessment kind of checklists that are inventories that teams can take in chapters 3 and 4 to really kind of help them identify where they are in the teaming process and where they need to go next. So that's where I would recommend they go first.
Love that. Chapter 5 begins on page 105. Chapter 5, page 105. Go ahead and tag that. You know, this is a learning party. We're not just here.
I'm like, please.
This is a learning party. Tag it. All right.
Get your bookmarks out.
Yes. Oh, I wish we had more time together. It is 8 o'clock. Our hour is up. I invite you to please. Oh, look at this. We're popping bottles.
My husband. I don't know why he's not in it.
Yeah.
The party. Thank you for joining us, all of you. Leading Impact Teams 2.0, building a culture of efficacy and agency. Barb, Paul, Katie, Sarah, Isaac, Michael, we thank you to all of the authors. Thank you for joining us, Tony. I'm going to give a shameless plug. This is not the only book that
I have to give a shout out to Bart, our publishing coordinator. Bart, come here. Get over here. Bart. Bart.
Love you for this.
Can you
Thank
leave?
you so much. Is
Here.
he here? Is he coming on?
Well, you can plug and then we'll get him.
All right, that sounds great. This book is published by Mimi and Todd Press. It's not the only book published by Mimi and Todd Press. I am a co-author on this lovely gem here, Amplify Learner Voice. Oh, here's Bart. Thank you, Bart.
Hey, Bart.
I'm going to invite you to go ahead and download this lovely book because it is amazing. Really proud of this work. And just, our winners. Oh, I didn't forget you. You thought I forgot? Don't log off yet because we have 5 more winners. I told
Carrie,
you.
I see Carrie's comment too. She's telling teachers, try it, take risk, invite others. You will always win and learning will be transformed. Impact teams all the way.
I love that. Impact teams all the way. Impact. That's it, baby. We're gonna close on a winning note. Our next 5 winners, get ready.
Bring it.
Roll. Brrr. We have Judith Ellen, my homegirl. Hey,
Hey.
we still can't hear the harmonica. You doing? We have Mike Rosen. Shout out. You want a copy of Impact Teams 2.0, Mike? We have Nika Elise.
Ooh.
Thank you so much, Nika.
Yeah.
Mark Stumer.
Yeah,
Think I'm
Mark.
saying
Right
that?
on, Mark.
And Ayla
Janika.
Olsen. Ayla Olsen. You have also one. Ayla.
Hey, congratulations.
You're
Woohoo.
going to get a little message. We're going to get your info, and just thank you, everyone. Please reach out to us. We appreciate you. Thank you for joining us. Have a great night. Bye.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Babette.
Thanks, everybody.